Clay, I enjoyed your video. Maybe the next one, talk about your most memorable villain. Who was the toughest foe that you ever had to beat? Some kind of dungeon tale.
All right, Vlad, you asked for it. You got it, sir. This is the story of the Big Bad. All right, so this entire kind of thing is a new series. Me and Ivan, or Vlad as I know him, are calling Dungeon Tales. These are going to be stories that me and him are going to swap back and forth. Apparently, he got inspired when I did the story of the Game of Many Deaths. He has a ton of tabletop stories, as do I, and we decided that we were going to kind of swap back and forth. So basically, he presents a topic, I'll do a video on it, I'll hit him back with a topic, and we kind of go back and forth. Generally, each of us will do a video a month. So in the description box, you'll find a link to his previous video in this whole chain, and if you guys are interested in doing videos of your own, please feel free to do so. Hit me up on Twitter with him at CBSA82 so I can take a look. Today's topic, originally he said he wanted me to do a video on the biggest bad guy or the worst bad guy I ever faced. Thing is, in the few games that I've gotten to play in so far, there hasn't been a big bad. So rather than talk about the worst one I've ever personally faced, we're going to talk about the worst one I've ever inflicted on a party. So this takes place in the first ever Savage Worlds game I ever ran. And to kind of understand the premise, it was set in space. It was kind of a mix of sci-fi and fantasy because Savage Worlds allows you to do basically anything. I allowed my players to do basically anything. For example, the party consisted of my wife, who was a literal orc space pirate, who had a Spanish galleon retrofitted as a spaceship with a atmospheric generator and gravity generator. With her in the party were her cousin Eli. He played sort of a roguish half-elf, sword in one hand, gun in the other, gambler priest. This is where the priest, or the god gambler, came from. He also could summon a sentient slot machine. With him was our friend Dan. Dan played, I don't remember the dude's name, but he was obsessed with kelp, because he was a fish man, and all of his spells were kelp themed. And when he used them, he would say the word kelp. Kelp! Just like that. Weird. And finally, the focus of the story was my wife's little brother and my little brother-in-law, Joey. And Joey was playing an ex-Special Forces sniper, because this happened several years ago. Joey was still in high school, and Joey was obsessed with Call of Duty, and everything he did revolved around snipers. Not even kidding. But the game allows it, and in Savage Worlds, during character creation, one of the things you can do is take essentially flaws. They give you more points to spend in your stats and skills and things, and one of the flaws is rival, and there's major and minor versions. And the major version is a rival that is out to kill you. He doesn't like you, and he wants you gone. So Joey because you get to have one major and one minor flaw, he took his major flaw to be major rival, and he named him Vladimir. It was a Russian sniper. So we had the sniper versus sniper thing going. Or he was basically saying Russian Secret Service. And I wasn't sure how to actually use the rival immediately, so we played 2 sessions, and every couple of minutes he was asking me about the rival, when the rival was going to show up, when the rival was going to appear, when would the rival be there. Here's a pro tip, guys, as a player: don't pester your GM about shit like that, because you will get what you're asking for, but generally in the worst possible way, and that's what happened here. After the second session, my wife had put into port at the end of that one and had decided that they needed a couple of new crew members. They needed a mechanic. And I saw an opening to put his rival on that ship and fuck with him. So that's what I did. So I decided his rival, because he didn't really flesh it out, he left it up to me, wasn't just a sniper. His rival was like a super agent, super spy. Had technology that would allow him to change his looks and his shape. And I decided that this Russian Vladimir was going to infiltrate the ship because he knew his target was there. So nobody knew this was going to happen except me. And my wife's going around the next session, like third session in. She's going around trying to find a crewman, a mechanic, and she runs across a guy I named Teeth. Teeth was a scrawny little, almost like insect-like man. Huge shock of white hair, huge bushy beard, covered in engine grease, looked emaciated, really crooked teeth, and he had a necklace of teeth. And he was obsessed with teeth. He was also a ridiculously good mechanic. I knew putting anything weird like that in front of my wife would almost guarantee me that she was going to want it. So I put her mechanic in front of her as a creepy, weird little old man who seemed relatively harmless. He was just obsessed with teeth and collecting teeth. So she hired him. Nobody but me knew that Teeth was in fact Vladimir. And Teeth was going to try to kill them all. So they get on the ship and they go and do a couple things. It's like 2 or 3 sessions. She's flying the ship. They investigate like a ship in space. They come across like the pirate king of a particular sector. He sends them off looking for something, and they get near the planet where they're going to look for this thing. And all of a sudden the engines fail, the gravity field fails, and the ship plummets to the ground. And it crashes. Surprisingly, everyone in the party survives. They made their rules. They managed to cushion most of the blow and survive and get through this whole thing. A good couple of the crew members died, and Teeth was nowhere to be found. And upon my wife and her first mate inspecting the engine, they discovered that it had been sabotaged, clearly screwed with. Everybody in the party immediately assumes it's Teeth, completely correctly, because it was. What they didn't realize is that Teeth had planned all this, had escaped the ship mid-crash, and had already landed on the planet and was trying to get away. So they get in the planet and they need to find a new ship to get off it. Side note, my wife has never forgiven me for crashing her ship. Very upset with that one. She likes to bring it up on occasion. So the party goes around. This is sort of like a ruined metropolis, so it's fairly advanced. They're like, we need to find a ship. Where can we find a ship? Airport. So they make their way through the city, have a couple little fights, make it to the airport. They find the one ship hangar in the airport with a ship in it, and standing in front of it is Teeth, clearly getting it ready. He's no longer creepy and weird. And to kind of step back a little bit, what Teeth did throughout the whole voyage, and I meant to bring this up, is he fucked with Joey constantly throughout the 3 sessions between when they hired him and when they crashed. I had him popping up when Joey was in the bathroom through an air vent. When Joey was taking a bath, he would pop up through that same air vent and just stare at him, smiling like, hey, you got pretty teeth. Basically, this dude clearly was fucking with Joey. Joey didn't like this. The rest of the party thought it was the funniest shit. So when they find out that Teeth is doing all this, they get there, they're ready to go. Teeth turns around. He is no longer hunched over, creepy or anything. He looks completely normal. He hits a button, and the disguise drops. They all get their initiative. He beats them all, and immediately makes a beeline for attempting to kill Joey. Now, Joey recognizes, I tell him flat out, I'm like, you recognize that's Vladimir, your rival. And Vladimir had the drop on them, and proceeds to nearly kill Joey in the fight. Brings him down to unconscious. Joey spends all of his bennies, which allow him to soak damage. He does everything he can. This dude ignores everybody, beelines it for Joey, beats the shit out of him, nearly kills him. Joey is actually unconscious for the rest of the fight, which pisses him off because he's never gotten that far in one of these games to near death. He literally got up and stomped off and got really angry that he nearly died. The rest of the party whoops the shit out of him because they're pissed off because he just fucked everything up. They beat him. I think my wife actually hit him so hard with her hammer on his head that his head exploded. So they killed him. They get Joey and they get into the ship and make it off. And then that basically ended that game. But the best thing is I've never had a villain that my party hated so much. Once the ship crashed and they realized who did it, they were out for blood. They wanted vengeance. They wanted to kill him. And then once it was revealed that it was Joey's fault that all this happened, they got mad in character at him because he did not tell a single one of them in character that there was someone out to kill him. It was the funniest thing, and it taught Joey, who played later on as a Dwarven Paladin in 4th edition, that you can die in these games. But it's always been this memorable thing. He's one of the few villains I've ever used that I've always remembered, because I don't think I've ever gotten such a reaction out of my players, either in humor when he was in his teeth persona, or in pure rage when he was Vladimir, ever. So that always made me giggle. Alright, so that was my story about the biggest bad that I've ever used. If any of you want to share your own version of that story, or the biggest bad you've ever faced, please feel free to, again, hit me up on Twitter at CBSA82. And for Vlad, I think this time I'm going to ask you, since you've run games, what is the most memorable death you've ever inflicted on your party? Like the one that got the party to go, holy shit, and like get a real good reaction out of them. I'm curious. As always, guys, thank you for watching. If you like what I'm doing here, hit that like button. If you don't like what I'm doing, feel free to hit the dislike button. Feel free to subscribe for more stories, reviews, and other tabletop goodies. Feel free to support me on Patreon at the link in the description box below if you want early access to my videos and other such nonsense. And as always, folks, thanks for watching, and remember, stay nerdy!